Aloha, it's Larry Gonzales with your housing market update for the 30th of January, the week of 30 January. Before I go on any further, like, comment, subscribe, like the feedback, and appreciate it as well. So what do we got going on this week? Well, the big three. Prices are steady. We'll get into that a little bit. There's a report that came out this week. Inventory's pretty steady too. Might start seeing a little bit of an uptick in homes coming on the market. And rates, we are at 4-month lows for interest rates. We are moving in the right direction, and that is great news. But let's get into what is causing interest rates to come down. Again, it is inflation. And this week the Fed met, and Fed Chair Powell and his team, they came out and they raised the Fed funds rate by 25 basis points. So now we're at between 4.5, 4.75 for the Fed funds rate. And that was exactly what we were expecting. Nobody really expected them to stop because inflation is not where they want it yet. Their goal is to get inflation down to 2%. PCE, the personal consumption expenditure, for the month of December was at 5%. So we're not quite there. I think we peaked at about 6.8. So we're just not there. And the Fed doesn't want to make the mistake of cutting the Fed funds rate or stopping too early. And while inflation is going down, the cost of goods is going down. The cost of services is not. And that is their concern. Inflation remains elevated. And you look at some of the reports that came out as well. Wage growth, it's still up. 7.4% annual increase in wages for people who didn't leave their jobs, who stayed at their jobs. Over 15% increase in year-over-year wage growth for people who changed jobs. So that number needs to come down. But that's very difficult to do. We also got the job openings and labor turnover report. There are fully 11 million. We had a 5.5% increase, over 11 million job openings right now. There aren't enough people to fill those jobs. So the people who have employees, they are having to pay them money to keep them on the payroll. And you know what? Your neighbor down the road doing the same thing probably needs somebody just like you. And guess what? If you're good, they're going to pay you too. So until we get some wage kind of flattening out, a little more unemployment going up. Our unemployment, so we got an ADP report this week. ADP report only had 106,000 new jobs created. The expectation was actually there would be over 175,000 new jobs in January, and that's a pretty big difference when it comes in that low. We have the bigger report, the BLS, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics jobs report, coming out on Friday. And that one, you would think that they would be in sync, but they're usually not. So who knows what that will show. But expect kind of similar numbers with regards to wage growth, because we'll see that there as well. Let me see, what else am I talking about here? We talked about that already. But let's go back to the Fed. A couple of things that the Fed talked about on Wednesday, which was actually received very positively by certainly the stock market and mortgage rates for that matter, was that they are seeing their quote, what they're seeing is subdued growth, not a recession. I say again, not a recession. They think that we may have a soft landing. But, sometimes I think they have this clouded view of reality. They said that also that the war in Ukraine its impact on our economy is lessening. Although from what I understand, we have about a $2 billion bill that we're trying to pass to provide more support to Ukraine in their fight against Russia. They also said that state and local governments are awash. They're flush with cash, and they're going to give that money back to their constituents. And, this is a government we're talking about here. The government says they're your friends, but, man, I tell you what, they kind of flounder a lot of money. So, although they may be awash or flush with money, is it really going to come back to consumers? I just don't. I'll believe it when I see it, and I personally wouldn't be relying on that as my go-to for saying that we're going to have a soft landing. Trust me, I want one. I just don't necessarily believe the logic that the Fed is using. But I will agree with this: our debt ceiling, until Congress and the White House and the Fed mention this, and he's trying not to get into politics, and understandably so, but he's saying, hey, I got nothing to do with the debt ceiling. I react. I work for the government myself, and you know what? Congress and the White House, they need to figure this one out, and they got to raise the debt ceiling. And until they do, that's going to put our country into it's going to keep our economy from really truly growing, and it will hurt us, certainly in the long run. So something that they were talking about, again, 25 basis point hike for the Fed, the 8th meeting in a row where we've had a rate hike. This is an 8 meeting in a row where the Fed has raised the Fed funds rate. Not in 15 years have we had our Fed funds rate this high. 2007 was the last time our Fed funds rate was this high. So those are a couple of things that came out. Now let's talk. I talked about prices. Everybody's waiting for the bottom to fall out of the housing market. They're going to be waiting a long time. We just got the Case-Shiller Home Price Appreciation Report, and this is a gold standard for appreciation. And this is across the country, so it's not necessary to every locality, but it takes in the information across the country. And this is a couple months late, so it's always a couple months behind, but this is for the month of November. Home prices month to month from October to November decreased 0.6%. Year over year, though, home price appreciation is still positive at 7.7%. For the month of October, year over year appreciation was 9.2%. And what we're seeing right now is in some of the cities that have had the highest amount of appreciation over the course of the last couple of years, well, they're the ones who are getting kind of hit the hardest. You could look at areas like San Jose, San Diego. They're having pretty big depreciation in homes, or their home prices are coming down, but still overall, when you look at where they started, they're still pretty good. And it's just something to watch. If you look at the top three metropolitan areas for home price appreciation, they're in the negative, but still not too bad, all things considered. Month over month, year over year, Tampa, Miami, those cities, they were at 32%, 36% appreciation year over year. Right now, they're in the high teens. So you're seeing a big cooling off in those areas, but still not a big drop. December, I think December is going to be a bigger drop simply because the people who closed on homes in December, they locked in when the rates were at their peak. So expect the report not to be as good for next month, but then I think we're going to start seeing it flatten out. And who knows, if rates continue to go down, we may see that appreciation month over month start to go up. So we may see a reversal. Have we hit the bottom? I talked about it last week. I think we did in December, and I think we're going to start seeing prices go back up again, especially in markets where the inventory is constrained, which is just about everywhere. Some places like Oahu, more constrained than others. So that was a big report this week, the Case-Shiller Home Price Appreciation Report. So what does this mean? What does this mean if you're out there looking to buy a home? Again, if you're waiting, you know what, you need to get off the fence. You need to get in the game now. I am starting to see multiple offers on homes again. And when you have multiple offers on homes, the sellers who are giving incentives tend to not give those incentives anymore. So if you're waiting, stop waiting. But if you want to buy, if you think, I'm going to wait until the spring or the summer, well, guess what happens? You'll get more inventory, but you're also going to get a lot more buyers. You get a lot more people PCSing. And for the people who are moving to new duty stations or moving, and you say, well, I got to be there. I got to see the house in order to buy it. No, you don't. We proved during COVID that you don't have to be in the location to buy the home. If you have a great realtor, that realtor is going to do video FaceTimes. You probably have friends where you're moving who can help you out as well. I see home prices stabilizing. I see rates coming down. Not coming down straight, though. We've had a couple really good days this week. You know what? Whenever we have a couple good days, we always give a little bit back a few days later. But overall, I think the trend is going to be in a lower direction. Next week, we have the Consumer Price Index report coming out, and I don't expect to see inflation coming down that too much, but still a good move sideways or slightly lower will be positive, I think, for interest rates. Inventory will continue to go up. Overall, it's a pretty solid market. And I look at what I've had this week as far as offers. A couple contested, but most of them still I'm able to get a credit on. Matter of fact, of the 3 contracts I got in so far, and this was as of Wednesday, all 3 were receiving a pretty good seller credit. So they're still out there, but as more competition comes into the market, expect some of those seller concessions to go away. That's about all I got for you this week. Have a great week. Any questions, again, hit me up. Always here for you. All right. Aloha.